right here live nowadays. Epic crap.
Stand by. Stop. Do I close this? That's what that is, I think.
Your guess is as good as ours.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Hey, there it is. All right, can you hear it? You can hear it? Not sure where is the audio coming from that machine?
Yeah, you see the green bars?
Yeah.
That's the
Yep.
audio levels.
Okay.
Oh, now we have the right one.
Oh, sorry, let's hold up a little bit.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay. Excellent. Should we get started? All right. Okay, well, hi, everyone. I don't know if all of you are here to, for the Canvas deep dive. We're going to be talking about Canvas as a learning management system, the API in Canvas, and we've given you admin access. So I'll bring this screen up a little bit later for those of you who want to log in, who have logged in. This is the URL, instance of Canvas. You have full administrative rights, and you have full access to our API. We're going to look at some examples. We'll figure out how to create a token and make some API calls, and also look at some examples of both API as well as LTI, another kind of alphabet soup. And then this is the password to log in. So just kind of raise your hand if you do choose to log in. If you're having trouble, raise your hand. Barrett in the back is able to assist with anybody who's having trouble logging in. So I'm going to get started. This is just a really very quick background on the company. And I think the reason I want to share this is because our company, it's called Instructure. The product is called Canvas, and it was started by 2 grad students. And it really was, they were taking an entrepreneurship class. And the task, the assignment, was think of the worst software that you can think of and do some research to determine if it was just maybe a bad decision. And if not, if you find that, no, it's just that really there's just not really great software out there in whatever that software area you're looking at, that maybe there's a possibly a business opportunity as an entrepreneurship class. Well, this is Brian and Devlin. They were grad students at BYU. They picked their LMS. They just really were not fans of their LMS. And so their instructor suggested, find that most broken software. And in terms of thinking about how to fix it for this assignment, understand the market requirements, validate the product. So the professor said, before you write a line of code, just go out and mock up your proposed solution and take it to your potential customers, take it to schools. And they did that. They went to over 25 colleges, primarily on the West Coast. This is Devlin at the top. This is his brother's Geo Metro. So they hopped in this car and drove all around. And they validated the product over time. They used PowerPoint to mock it up. And then once they got to the point that schools were saying, you build that, we'll buy it, that's when they began writing code. So Canvas, the product was launched in 2011. We're based in Salt Lake City. We have over 500 employees now. We have international offices in London, Sydney, and Hong Kong. This is the growth, so the classic kind of hockey stick. We have 9/10 of the Ivy League. We have many of the Big Ten. So the growth, we're actually over 1,300 customers now. Over 18 million people using Canvas. So we're focused on ease of use. This is just showing kind of percentage of use, like growth in the depth of use, moving for schools that moved to Canvas, and the short amount of time it took them to increase that. We're focused on reliability. We're native to the cloud. We were developed from the beginning. We knew we were leveraging Amazon Web Services. We've open sourced the product. You can go to GitHub and you can download Canvas and you can install on your machine. Industry leading architecture, so leveraging the kind of standing on the shoulders of giants here with Amazon Web Services. For this group, I just wanted to talk just a little bit about security. Obviously, very, very important to the data that we are handling, data that belongs to you, the students, belongs to the schools, and the teachers who are building content. So we just had our 4th annual Open Security Audit, our most successful to date. This time around, we partnered with Bug Crowd. So we had more than 60 top security researchers. And we introduced a new bug bounty program. So any of you who are interested in security, our bug bounty program, you can actually make money by digging in and uncovering bugs in Canvas. And canvaslms.com/security for more information, including the full details of all of our security audits, years 1 through 4. Canvas adaptability. So this is the last slide like this, but I wanted to just talk a bit about this because we're going to be talking about Open API, and we're going to be talking about LTI integration, and what are those? And LTI really comes down to this. They're apps, right? We have apps on our phone. Well, we have apps in our learning platform as well, and they can be added with one click. Can really streamline the experience for a teacher or an administrator, a user who wants to add an app. So LTI stands for Learning Tools Interoperability. We'll talk more about that, but it's just a way to plug in learning tools into a learning environment. So what is an API? I think, just want to flash this up here. This is a definition from Wikipedia on the application programming interface. It really is a way to integrate and to connect with a system. And in this case, the system is Canvas. It's a learning platform, and you can push data in and you can pull data out. And when you pull data out of Canvas, you're pulling it out in JSON. This is kind of an XML-looking, sort of human readable. And in fact, here's an example of what it looks like. So you have some attributes, and those attributes have values. So this is an example of JSON. We'll see more examples of this in a bit. API examples, we kind of talked about this, getting data in, getting data out. The most common example of getting data in, data integration, is through connection with your student information system. So here at Penn State uses Banner as their student information system, and that has the list of courses, the students, the teachers, the enrollments, the drops, and the ads, the terms, and that data gets pushed into Canvas, and that happens through the API. Here's a great example of data going the other way. Final grade data comes out of Canvas and goes back to Banner, the student information system, right? So that's the data going out of Canvas because the class is over, and that grade needs to go back to the student information system, which is the system of record. That final data needs to be there. Here we have custom reporting dashboards, so that's a great example of getting data out. It doesn't go back to the SIS, but instead is creating a unique solution for a school, for a department, for a university. Pulling the data out and building dashboards that paint the exact types of analytics or metrics that is needed. Canvas for iOS, Canvas for Android. We have 2 mobile teams. They leverage the API, the same API that you have access to, that all of our schools have access to. That's what they use to develop these native iOS and native Android apps. And they're very robust. So the apps for our phones, for our tablets, the theme here is that as a student, I can complete my entire course using this thing I have in my pocket. It's all done through the Canvas API. So that really kind of sets the stage for a robust API like the one in Canvas. Has over 300 calls. You can recreate the entire experience of, as a student, what I need to be able to accomplish. Completing quizzes, posting to discussions, submitting assignments, sending messages or responding to messages from my instructor, checking my grade, and so on. Viewing content. So what is LTI? Learning Tools Interoperability. This is IMS Global. This is the standards body. If you've ever heard of Common Cartridge or LTI or LIS, they are the standards body who make that up. And they're made up of many companies like ours, many publishers, as well as universities and schools that kind of work together on putting together these standards for learning tools. So LTI allows you to plug and play stuff into Canvas. Remember that one-click App Center? So we've developed an App Center. We'll take a quick look at it. But it really is a catalog of apps that allows you to just plug them right into your course. So LTI examples, importing content. This is something Canvas does very well, is that we expose LTI in very different ways. When I go to a tool, rich content editor, and I'm doing formatting, well, I have little widget tools right there that I can add in that allow me to pull lectures from TED-Ed or from YouTube or from, any of these different sites. So importing content, or I can import them right into learning modules. So there are different areas within the course environment where I can pull this content in. I can add external assignments, external tools. This idea of external, that LTI, external, they mean the same thing really. And LTI is, there's this server out here that's not in Canvas at all. And it has something, it has a tool or an assignment or content. And we want it to be seamless. The user goes into Canvas and they access this tool. They click on a link and it brings that tool up in Canvas and they can leverage that tool, whether it's a tool, whether it's content, whatever it might be, they can leverage it from within Canvas. LTI has context. If I add this tool, let me give you an example, e-textbook. You can add an e-textbook to your course or for your department so that every course has it. And when you go and click on the e-textbook, it's going to load that textbook with the tools that are meant for you because it knows who you are. It's passing authentication to this e-textbook. It knows which class you're in, and it knows you're a student. Whereas if I was your instructor and I log in and I click on the e-textbook, it knows what class I'm in, and it knows that I'm a teacher. And therefore, I might get a different experience. You have the ability to view that textbook and to make annotations and notes and keep comments. Well, I have the ability to do all those things, but I can also share my comments out with each of you. And you may or may not have that permission within that tool. It's just based on the context that's being passed. Okay, so that's tools, categories. We'll look here at the EDU App Center. This is the App Center. It has almost 200 apps in there, and they're assessment tools, social tools, content tools, e-textbook tools, and so on. All right, here's an example of an LTI tool, and I really like this one because it's a good example of an LTI tool, a very robust LTI tool that is also leveraging the Canvas API. So we're kind of combining these two concepts of LTI and API. So Dropout Detective, this is an interesting story as well because this was a director at a college in Florida, and she was in charge of student retention, and she needed help in identifying students who were at risk. And there was all this data that Canvas is capturing, and she wanted basically to be able to pull that data together and paint a picture of, okay, what kinds of things, when you see these multiple things together, that means a student might be at risk. How can I raise that up into a red, yellow, green dashboard? Stoplight, right? And so Dropout Detective, the company is Aspire EDU, and they have an algorithm, their proprietary algorithm, that crunches different data around how long has it been since the students logged in? How late are they on assignments? How often are they late on assignments? How many classes are they not logging into? It's looking at a range of data right out of Canvas via the Canvas API. And then the algorithm is pulling that together and resulting in a number. It's a risk index number. And from that, it's saying anything that's over 29 or 30, we're going to bump it up to red. And the other interesting thing about this LTI tool is it gets loaded into Canvas. It's in Canvas. It's a seamless experience. As the teacher, I click on it. It knows I'm the teacher, and it knows what course I'm in, and it paints this for me based on the course that I'm accessing the tool. As an administrator, let's say as the dean of the department, I have access administratively, like you guys. You have access to the administrative console, and I can go and click on this tool, and it's running this across the entire department, every single course that belongs in the department, so that I would potentially have a longer list of reds, but I can see across the entire program or entire department which students are at risk. All right, so let's Dropout Detective. Instructure.github.io. So I mentioned that Canvas is open sourced. You can download Canvas, the application, off of GitHub. Well, we also have this Dev and Friends page, and that's what we're looking at here. Learn the Canvas API. So if you come to instructure.github.io, just a couple things here that are worth pointing out as primarily the module on APIs, introducing you to APIs and how to call them, how to leverage them. And we're going to be doing some of this today. A module on LTI, what it is and how to use it. We're not going to be doing that today. This is a deeper dive. And I'm actually, let me fess up now, I'm not a developer. I know how to make API calls, and I'll share with you what I know. And then down here, LTI docs. There's the official LTI docs from IMS Global. But down here is a shorter LTI introduction, and this is very good. So we'll take a quick look at that. And then over here is the link to the API docs. So let's just look at a few of those things now. So api.instructure.com, that's the web address for our API. As I mentioned, there are over 300 API calls there. And as we scroll down here, if we welcome to the Canvas API documentation, it says right here, to get started, you'll need to set up authentication using OAuth. So we'll do that. Those of you who are logged in to Canvas, and you'll have another chance to do that in a moment, we'll actually set up a token so that we can make some API calls. So this is the API. We'll come back to that in a moment. This is the App Center. So the App Center is available at eduappcenter.com. eduappcenter.com. And within Canvas, this is the HackPSU Canvas course. If you're in a course or if you're in the administrative console, either place, you can click on Settings, and there's a tab here called Apps. And you'll see that that looks awfully familiar. It looks a whole lot like the EDU App Center that we just saw. It's the same thing here. Oh, it's still loading. There we go. So if I wanted to add, let's say, Box. If I want to add Box to my course, I just click on it, and I can read a little bit about Box, and I can click Add App. This one requires a consumer key and secret. So some of these LTI apps are licensed, and they require you, so when you license, when you go to Box in this case, and you reach out to them, they would provide you a consumer key and a secret, and you would put that in there. And that's kind of, handles anyone who's accessing it. They know that it's going through your license. Let's back up, back to the App Center. And let's add one that we know is free. Probably about 40% of these are free. There's the Dropout Detective we mentioned. You'll probably recognize a lot of these. Here, there's a nice graph builder. Maybe we're teaching a math course. And this is a graph builder, which is cool because this becomes available to the teacher, but also the students. When you're answering an essay question, you can leverage the graph builder. If I want to add it, I just click Add App. And it's now been added to this course, which is our Business Telecom course. So let's go back to EDU App Center for a moment. Let's hop back to Canvas Dev and Friends. We saw this page. We saw the different links here on the modules. If I click on that module, on LTI or API, they both take me to the same place. They take me to this course, which is still loading. So this course has modules on LTI, modules on API, has quick links to the documentation. And so if I want to click here on Getting Started with the API, or down here where it says Learning Modules, you can see all the modules broken out. So here are all of the individual assignments and information on LTI apps, introduction to LTI apps, and then down here is your introduction to the Canvas API and different lessons to work through on how to run GET requests. We'll do some of those today. How to handle OAuth, pagination, and more. One more link I want to click on here, and I mentioned this earlier, so this is the link to the API docs. We already went there via the api.instructure.com. But right here, this shorter LTI introduction. When you click on that, it took us to the App Center, but it took us here under Docs. And this is an introduction, a very nice, actually, well done introduction to LTI. And you have this concept of a consumer or a provider. Remember I said they're external tools or external content? Well, either you are an LTI provider of content, of tools, or you are an LTI consumer. Canvas is a consumer. We're not a provider. We have a configuration here that is an app center that allows you to easily consume LTI tools. Whereas some of these other vendors we looked at, like the e-textbook providers, they are providers of LTI content or LTI tools. The only other thing I would show here, just this is a fantastic resource if you're considering doing any work with LTI specification, and that's right here under, Well, the next page is building an LTI app. This is a very good primer, and then post parameters. And remember I was talking about that context that is sent from Canvas to that LTI tool. It knows what course you're coming from. It knows you're a student, or it knows you're a teacher. That context is right here, those post parameters. And a lot of those apps we were looking at don't have a whole lot that they're passing. Some of them are, a lot of them actually are anonymous. They're not passing anything. They're just pointing you to YouTube, where you can do a search and find videos on cats and embed them into your content. Versus what the Dropout Detective or the e-textbooks examples are passing some of this. And as we scroll through, you'll see there's actually quite a lot of data that could be passed. And it's really on the LTI, the developer of the LTI tool, to determine what kind of data from the LMS, in this case from Canvas, what kind of data is being passed to that external tool, to that external server. All right. Well, let's jump back here for a moment. So the kind of from here, we're going to be digging in a bit on doing some hands-on API calls. So those of you who want to run some API calls against Canvas have to be logged in. So anybody who wants to do the hands-on stuff that's not yet logged in, we can get you set up.
Yeah, I couldn't log in with my PSU.
Okay. Barrett can fix you up. And then we'll get you caught up. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward. All right. So step one is we have to create an API access token. It's really easy to do so. And it's well documented. So let me just show you the couple of areas where it's documented. I just did a quick screenshot so you can have a quick visual. This is step one. In Canvas, you're going to click on Settings. At the bottom of that page, you're going to click New Access Token. And then you're going to generate the token, and then you're going to copy it. And here's an example of the token that results. So those are the steps. Let's just look real quick at the documentation. Right here, it says, welcome to the Canvas API documentation. And I can click on authentication using OAuth. And you don't need to follow this necessarily. I just want you to see that on the main page for the API documentation, there is this section here called manual token generation, and it walks you through the process of generating one. It's the same. It's those screens that I just showed. There's actually one other way you can get to that information. Notice in the upper right corner of the Canvas environment, there's a link there to help. And when I click on help, the first option is search the Canvas guides. It takes me to guides.instructure.com. These guides are really, really good. They're very good. We hear from people all the time, users of Canvas. There's also the Canvas community. There's our uptime. There are release notes. You have a beta environment. You have a test environment. We release the notes of what's going to beta here. So if I click in this field and just type token, spell it right. The very first item is, how do I obtain an API access token? And you'll see that this is like really specific. Click settings, add new token, generate token. Those are the same screens that I showed you. You approve tokens. So in any case, it's very easy. Let's just do it now. So if we, those of us who are logged in, if you go to settings in the upper right corner, and then once the settings page has loaded, you scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see this blue button, New Access Token. And for purpose, you could call it API testing, or you could call it HackPSU, whatever you want to call it. I'll call mine HackPSU. Expiration. So expiration is a good idea when you're just doing testing, that you would choose an expiration date. I'll let you guys know that actually, this environment is going to be spun down like within a week. So it's really for today and tomorrow, and we'll leave it up for a few days. So but by next weekend, it'll be shut off. So just so you're aware. And so it's really, because of that, it doesn't really matter whether we put an expiration date, because we're going to be expiring the entire environment. So then you would click Generate Token. I'll go ahead and click that, and it gives you this screen. And it tells you here, you need to copy this now, because once you leave this page, you won't be able to retrieve the full token any longer. So if you're going to be doing some API calls, you want to copy this and put it somewhere. Paste it into Notepad or something, because the next time you come back, it'll only show you like a portion of it. It won't give you the whole thing. All right, so I'm just going to highlight and copy that token. And I'm going to come over here to, I'm on a Mac, so I'm just going to paste it into my, paste it into my Notepad. And actually, I already have a token here for the same environment, so I'm not going to worry about it. But for you, you want to paste it somewhere, so you'll have it. Are you all caught up here? Awesome. Cool. So is everybody who wants to follow along here, everybody caught up to this point? You have this copied, and you have it pasted into something so you can retrieve it as needed. All right. So at that point, you can choose just to close this, click the X, and we're ready to make an API call. So I want to just run a couple API calls for you. You can just watch, and then you can run some yourself. So for starters, again, I'm on a Mac, so one of my options here would be to bring up terminal. Macs have curl already loaded, so I'm going to run a curl command. And the way I'm going to do this, let's go back to our PowerPoint for a second. So there's some different API tools. There are actually a lot. There are different ways, and this is documented in our documentation as well. There are two I'm going to show you today. So you could actually use your browser. You could run an API call just using your browser. I'm going to show you terminal just for the first one, just so you can see it working. But then we're going to spend most of our time in a Chrome app called Postman. So we'll download Postman, and it's going to work the same on Windows or on Mac. And so we'll get there in just a moment. And then, so here's some API calls we're going to run. So I'm going to start with this first one. I want to list users in an account. Well, what's that mean? When I think of an account, I think of a user account. In Canvas, an account means a department. It means the root level account, which would be the university, or it means a sub-account of that, which might be a school of, or the world campus, or it might be even a sub-account of that, which might be a department that belongs to a school of science. It could even be sub of that, a program that belongs to a department, that belongs to a school, that belongs to the university. So that's a hierarchy that defines the account. And so I can run it and get all the users across our entire HackPSU environment. Or as we'll see, we have a school of that we've created in the HackPSU environment, and it has a different unique identifier for the account. So we could just run that call just for that particular account, and we would get different data. So let's start with that one. So how would we go about running this API call? Well, I'll probably hop over to my API for one. And then the API call we're running is list users in an account. If I scroll down to the very bottom, these are in alphabetical order. The last item here is called users. I'm going to click on users, and one of the calls here is list, the first one actually, list users in an account. And this shows me what a user object looks like, so this gives me a sense of what the data looks like. So I'll click on that, and right here you can see that it's a get command. And you can see right here, this is the API call, /API /v1 /accounts /put the account ID here /users. So we're getting somewhere. We have some idea. I'll just copy that, and I'm going to bring it over here to my Notepad, and I'll just paste it in there. Make this plain text. All right, so I have that much. Well, I think the other thing that we know is that our web address is this. We know it's hackpsu.structure.com. That's where our token is. That's where the data is that we want to get to. So I'm going to paste that in as well. And what we're getting to here is we're starting to kind of build that path. This is the API call we're making. Now, the other thing I have is this token. My token is right here, actually. So let me copy that. I'll just paste it down here. That's my token. I'll be using it for different calls. And I might even just name this. This is list users in an account. That's my first API call that I'm working on. And it's a work in progress here. So this is looking pretty good, but what about this thing, this :account_ID? Well, there's really kind of a quick way to figure out what the account what the unique identifier for the account is. And that is in your HackPSU environment, you have right here, manage accounts. There's that account word again. And if you click on HackPSU, that's the root level. That's the university level. That's the root, the very top. And notice the URL, accounts/1. So the root level is accounts/1. So we know it's a 1. And if you just look here for a moment, notice if I click on sub-accounts, those are accounts that are subordinate. And if I click on sub-accounts, notice one of them is School of Science. If I click on School of Science, the administrative console has now changed. It's no longer based on the root. If I click on users or courses or any of these, they're in context of the School of Science only. And I can see up at the top, the School of Science is a number 4. So those are our two numbers. We have multiple accounts in here, and we're going to run the call against either the entire HackPSU or just against the School of Science. So let's go with the number 1. So I'm going to go back to my document, and actually I'm going to replace this where it says : account ID. I'm just going to replace that with a 1. So it should look like this now. HackPSU, instructure.com, API v1, accounts 1, users. So there's our call. And so up here, this is how I would make that exact call via curl. So I'm just going to copy that, and notice it has, I'm calling curl. I've completely forgotten what -h means. I think that's the get rather than the post. Authorization, : bearer. So those are keywords that are important there. And then I have my token, and then I have the call, which is hackpsu.structure.com, API v1, accounts 1, users. So for me, this is really easy. It's actually very easy on a Mac. I can just bring up terminal, and I can just paste that and run it. And there is the, what do you call this stuff? What format is that? JSON, yeah. So JSON return, we'll see, you know, in the example I showed earlier, it was kind of nicely cleaned up. This is just showing me the raw JSON. We'll see in a moment when we use Postman that you can view the raw, or you can view kind of a cleaned up version for presentation, for ease of readability. So we just made this call, and it returned all of us. That's actually everybody. It's a little surprising. Maybe that's not everyone. We might need to do, it's possible that this is paginating. It's only returning the first, let's say, 200 entries. Because I think we actually have like almost 500.
How far to the right is this file done? How far to the right is this text file done?
It wraps. Yeah, you can see.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, I don't. So this is probably more of a pagination issue, which is one of those areas in the training documentation. We're not going to get into it now, but you do have the ability to kind of choose how many returns or to paginate to move to the next page of returns. All right, well, let's do the same call in Postman. So here is Postman. This is an app that you can download from the Chrome store. It's a Chrome extension. So I'm just going to open a new browser tab in Chrome. I guess an open question here is whether you guys have Chrome installed on your computers or not. And there are several different tools like Postman that allow you to run REST API. So, gosh, I'm trying to remember the quickest way. Yeah. So I think the quickest way is probably to go here to the Windows tab in Chrome and go to Extensions. And then when you scroll down to the bottom, there's this option here to get more extensions. So this takes you to Store. I can type Postman. And there are a couple of them there. One is a packaged app. That's not the one I'm using. I'm using the Postman REST client. You can see the number of downloads, or the number of ratings at least. In this, so it's the first one in the list there. I already have it installed, so it just lets me rate it. So you would have the little free button, and you'd click on that to install it. Everybody good on that? All right. Okay, so once you have that installed, if you open a new tab, in my case, I have, this is a quick way here for me to get to apps. I can just open a new tab and click on apps. And it takes me to my list of apps, one of which is going to be Postman. And that takes me to the Postman tool, which I already had up. So yours will probably be empty. Notice this is Postman. You have history. If you've ran any calls here, they're in your history. There's also this tab called Collections, which is one of the nice features of Postman. I can click here and I can save calls that I want to make or that I've made. I can save them and reuse them. So I have a bunch of calls here. You can save them in collections. You name the collections. I have one called Quizzes. I have a collection called Users. I can collapse these. If I don't usually use the external tools or quizzes, I can collapse some of these to really just kind of clean up, expand them as needed. So let's run a couple of these calls. Well, the first one that we ran was actually this list users in the account. So for you, you don't have any calls in here yet. You need to add your first call. That you do have over here, you have normal, basic auth, digest, OAuth. We're going to click on the normal tab, and you're going to paste the URL right there. So the URL right out of my document is hackpsu.structure.com/API/v1/accounts/1/users. And then you're going to click on this over here to the right where it says headers. You're going to click on headers so that it shows an empty value. And in the first field, you want to type authorization. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Yeah. This is the URL right here. This is the URL that we built right here, right? It's that URL. Remember how we pulled that together? The way that I pulled that together was this is the domain. And then the rest of it, right here, is right out of the API documentation. Right here. With the exception of this where it says account ID. Remember we went into Canvas and we went to the admin console, and that's where we saw that a value of 1, that's a unique identifier at the root level. And that's almost always the case in Canvas. So we chose to use a value of 1 instead of a value of 4. Value of 4 was for the school of science. Value of 1 was for the root, for the entire HackPSU instance. Okay, so that's where that URL came from. We kind of built it from 3 different things. We pulled the domain, we pulled the API call from list users, and then we put the value 1 for the school. Now, after you click headers over here, you will put in a value of authorization. It's a name value pair, so the name is authorization. And then in the second, in the value section, you're going to type the word bearer with a space. Bearer, space, and then you need to paste your token in there. And what I recommend doing at that point, once you have that done, is to choose Add to Collection. So if you choose Add to Collection, you may not have any collections yet. You may not have anything, any existing collections. So or create a new one. I create this collection. We are listing users in an account. And so I created a collection called just users. And I have a bunch of different API calls saved under a collection called users. And one of those is this list users in an account. So here I typed users, and then here I typed out list users in an account because that's the name of the API call that I'm calling. And then I clicked Add to Collection. At that point, you now have your first collection with the first API call. Okay. All right. So once that's saved, click the Send button. And it's going to return all of the users in your account. In our case, yeah. And oh, I didn't even, we kind of missed a step. You see over here to the far right, there's a drop down. It was set to the right value, so we didn't have to change it. But you have to make sure that matches. Remember our documentation from this. We go back to the doc. It says here, it's a get. We're not putting, we're getting. So it was set to the right thing, but we would want to make sure that we're setting that to the right thing. And it returned it in JSON format, or here's the raw format, right? That's what it looked like when we ran it from curl. I prefer the pretty format myself. It's more readable, and you can scroll through and see the results. And yeah, it looks like actually it's only returning 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Interesting. Yeah, so we could, there are attributes we could put on where we could get more than 10 results. And then there's also the ability to choose which page, because it's paginating automatically. We could choose whether we want 100 results instead of 10, or if we want to go to page 2 instead of page 1. How do you do that? I think I have that one handy. Let me add that to the list, and that is, how do you paginate? And also, how do you increase the number of entries returned? So to answer your pagination question, I would go back to the API documentation, and right here, remember the first section was about authentication. That was about getting our token, an OAuth token. The second is SIS IDs, and some of the API calls we run are require us to leverage the SIS ID. Again, at PSU, it's banner, and there's a unique identifier. It's a student ID or a staff ID, or there's a unique identifier for each course or each section of each course. So pagination, we click on pagination. Right here it is. So link, here's the API call. Opaque A. I have examples of this. Possible values are current, next, previous, first, last, and that's what you're seeing here. So we can experiment with that. I'm going to move on to a couple more calls, but we can come back to this kind of as more of a working session as we wrap up the presentation. All right, let's make another call. So I'm going to go back to PowerPoint for a second. Our next call is list user enrollments. So that's going to be for a particular course, or I'm sorry, no, that's in all enrollments for a particular user. So if I go back to my API documentation and I scroll down to users, notice one of those is, nope, I went to the wrong place. We actually want to go to enrollments. So we're going to the enrollments API, and notice the first one is called list enrollments. And right here is the code. It's a get, just like the other one was. And for this one, we want a course ID. And then we have the enrollments. So I'm just going to copy that. Remember, it's called list enrollments. And then go back to my document here. And I'm just going to build this out. So this is list enrollments. And I want it to look like that. And I know that it's HackPSU. We're starting to build this out. And then we have a course number. Well, we have a bunch of different courses in here, and they all have users. You can see that American History has 17 users. Biology has 16, 15, 0 students. Oh, that's because we're all teachers in the HackPSU project ideas forum. Microecon, psych, music theory. Let's use this music theory class because we put some data in several of these classes, but music theory we put grade data, and we're going to be doing a grade change log in just a bit. So let's do all the work based on this one, and you can see that the ID, the unique identifier of this, is 4. Okay, so we're going to use a value of 4, and that is right here where it says :course ID. Replace that whole thing with a value of 4. So HackPSU, instructure.com, API, v1, courses, 4, enrollments. I guess I could make that a little bigger for you. Bigger. All right. So that's it, actually. That's all we need. So if we take that and we go back to Postman, just though we don't save, we can use this existing call, but we just want to make sure we choose add collection as the first thing we do. So the only thing I really need to change here is this. So I just copied over and replaced the URL that I'm calling. It's still a get. It's still using the same token. And before I don't want to save, I want to choose add to collection. And this time, this is I could call it enrollments, or I could just put it in the courses catalog if you already have the courses, or you can create a new one and call it courses or enrollments. But the name of it is going to be list enrollments. And we're listing enrollments for a particular student. You're going to add to collection. You have that saved, and then you can go ahead and click send. And you're going to see in this case, it's returning all of the enrollments for that music course. Any questions about this? Yeah.
I keep doing unauthorized little very long. There's actually a section right here.
Interesting. No, that looks right. Anyone else getting errors on the Postman? Which course are you going to? Yeah, that's 4. You're not even in the course. You're an admin of the system, so you should be fine. You know what? I wonder if I didn't add you as an admin. I bet that's it. Can you make sure he?
Well, how am I getting an API?
Because even students can create API keys. Yep. Any user in the system can generate an API token. All right. Let's run one more, and then I do have a couple of examples of a hack down. We actually do hack downs and hack nights at Instructure. We do them with for our Instructure conferences when we have all different schools come, and we'll have hack nights there. So I do have a couple of examples I want to share with you on different hack down examples that some Instructure employees have done. So we'll do one more API call. I'm going to go back to my document. The next one, let's skip the next one. List users in the course. We're kind of already doing a lot of that stuff. Let's do grade change log. This is a little more interesting API call. So again, to do this, we're going to go back to the API, and this time I'm looking for grade change log. So look under the G's. It's in alphabetical order. We want the grade change log. I just clicked on the wrong one. There it is, grade change log. And the second query is the one we're going to use. It's querying by course. So we're going to pull all the grade changes for a particular course. So I'll click on that, and you can see here's the API call. Once again, it's a get. We're just doing gets today. And so I'm going to highlight that URL. Did it get you fixed up?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my notepad. And I'm going to build out another one. And this is grade change log. And I know I need the domain part. And we're going to use that same course. And remember, the unique identifier for that course was a value of 4. So I did that kind of quick, but I created that path, or the call here, and we'll jump back to Postman. And I'm going to paste that in right here. I already have my my token in place. I'm going to click Add to Collection, and this one is going to be around grades. So I'll probably create a new collection, or no, I may just add it to my courses collection. But I'm going to name this one grade change log, and then I would click Add to Collection. At that point, I'll go ahead and click Send, and you can see that it's returning all of this grade change data and who made the change. I think it was actually all these grade changes were me. Like, we're out of time. Okay. Very good. So we're going to wrap. Anybody who wants to, has any questions, Barrett and I are here for as long as you guys need us to be, within reason. I need to go home by midnight at least, get some rest. We'll be back tomorrow though. Barrett, Barrett has some swag.
I do. I do have swag.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, we've got a ton of stuff, so I don't know if you guys just want to take a second, hop up and come cherry pick, or that way I don't have to hand things out.
Do the t-shirt gun?
Yeah, t-shirts are gonna go fast. So we've got a lot of meat. Don't be shy. You're over here. Yeah, especially so. No, that's awesome, man. That's great. So with have you had the ability to play around?
They could. So you can have a